Hello everyone, and welcome to our video all about calcium, vitamin D, and milk. So calcium is an important nutrient for baby, although it becomes especially important once baby transitions to toddlerhood, as their calcium needs increase substantially at 1 year. Calcium is important once baby hits 1 year because they're typically consuming less breast milk, and infant formula is not recommended for infants past 1 year of age. So calcium is not something that you need to focus on as much as iron or zinc, as breast milk and infant formula provide much of what baby needs. But as your baby gets closer to 1 year, it will be important to start incorporating more calcium-rich food sources in their diet. So calcium-rich food sources include things like yogurt, cheese, broccoli, chia seeds are an awesome calcium source, tofu, sardines, cooked white beans, oranges, and cooked kale. Now let's chat briefly about vitamin D, and then we will move on to milk. So vitamin D is super important for bone health, prevention of a bone disease called rickets, and it's really important for immune health. Although vitamin D is found in some foods like fatty fish, like salmon, and fortified foods like some orange juices, we generally make vitamin D in a series of chemical reactions starting in our skin that require cholesterol and sunlight. However, because baby has very sensitive skin and requires sunscreen to prevent skin damage, sunscreen can actually inhibit vitamin D synthesis. It's unsafe to keep baby in direct sunlight for the amount of time that would be needed for them to make enough of their own vitamin D. So thus the American Academy of Pediatrics, and me, recommends that all infants get 400 IUs of vitamin D daily. IU stands for International Unit, and it is the unit of measurement that we use when we talk about vitamin D in supplements and in food. So the kicker here is that breast milk is not a good source of vitamin D, so many babies need to be supplemented with additional vitamin D. Because breast milk is generally inadequate in vitamin D, exclusively breastfed babies will need to be supplemented with 400 IUs of vitamin D daily. Note that there are some studies suggesting that mom can supplement with vitamin D herself at certain doses to provide baby with adequate vitamin D through the breast milk. And if you want to try this instead of directly supplementing baby with vitamin D, then it's important to chat with your doctor or dietitian if this is an appropriate route for you. So infant formula, if your baby is formula fed, usually contains vitamin D. So if your baby is partially or fully formula fed, check the label and check your doctor to make sure that they are taking in enough formula to meet that 400 IUs per day of vitamin D that baby needs. And vitamin D, again, can be found in some foods, but it's generally not high in most foods except for fortified foods like orange juice I mentioned, which I don't recommend serving to baby anyway, and fatty fish like salmon, which can be a great option for baby. So that's it for our vitamin D. Now we're going to chat about milk, and then we'll wrap up the video. So avoiding cow's milk, for one, is recommended for all infants, and it's recommended to avoid cow's milk until 1 year of age for a couple reasons. So first, cow's milk is low in iron and high in calcium, and that can increase the risk for iron deficiency anemia when it's consumed in high amounts. So if you remember back to our iron video, iron and calcium are both absorbed through the same transporter in our gut, and because milk is so high in calcium, if baby is drinking a lot of milk at the same time they're eating their iron-rich foods, that calcium is going to compete with iron for being transported into the gut. It's going to decrease the absorption of iron and increase baby's risk for something called iron deficiency anemia, which is not good and often requires supplementation and visits to a doctor and working with a dietitian. So we want to avoid iron deficiency anemia, and that is one reason why cow's milk is not recommended before 1 year of age. Two, some research tells us that milk consumption before 9 months can actually result in intestinal bleeding. So milk consumption by younger babies can have a detrimental effect on the gut. And finally, now once we hit 1 year of age, then it's acceptable to start introducing cow's milk to baby's diet. So if you choose to serve cow's milk to your toddler after 12 months, Full fat is recommended because low fat can typically cause a reduction in energy intake, which can in turn negatively affect growth. So the reason, now another thing why we don't want to serve cow's milk in infancy, we don't want it to be a substitution for breast milk or formula. The minerals and the protein composition of cow's milk is not appropriate for what an infant needs, like breast milk or formula is. An excessive consumption of cow's milk in infancy before 12 months of age can actually result in some damage to the kidneys, because kidneys are just, little cute baby kidneys are just not quite as adept at filtering out what needs to be filtered when high amounts of cow's milk is consumed. So there's lots of reasons why to avoid cow's milk consumption as a beverage before 1 year. Now, it is okay to use cow's milk in cooking, like if you're baking a bread for baby, but cow's milk again should not be served as a beverage before age 1. Now, what about all the other milks out there? So other milk substitutes like soy milk, Ripple, oat milk, and almond milk, these should generally be avoided before age 1 as a beverage too. Although the nutrient composition of these milks is different from cow's milk, breast milk or formula is the most appropriate for an infant specific nutrient needs, because breast milk or formula accounts for a majority of an infant's calorie intake, and so we want the most appropriate option to be given to baby because they're taking in so much of it. So once your baby hits 1 year, it is okay to start introducing these alternative milks if you would rather do that other than cow's milk. But before 1 year, we shouldn't be giving these alternative milks to infants as a beverage either. We really want to emphasize breast milk or formula because they're the most appropriate options for baby when it comes to the micronutrients, the vitamins and minerals in it, as well as the macronutrients, so the proteins, fats, and carbs in those drinks. So to clarify and summarize, no milks other than breast milk or infant formula until age 1, period. It is, or as a beverage, so you can use them in cooking. It is okay to use milk in baking, but avoid serving any milks other than breast milk or formula as a beverage. Start to really ramp up calcium-rich food as your baby gets close to 1 year, and make sure your baby is taking in 400 IUs of vitamin D every day.